Home of the Rocket Boys, once the leading coal-producing county in the nation, and the site of a murder of a hero which sparked the largest labor insurrection in our country's history. I'm Wayne Worth, and you're watching On the Road in West Virginia, our 55 counties, McDowell County. Before Homer Hickam and his friends were shooting off rockets from an old coal dump site, and before it was discovered that McDowell County had some of the world's richest coal reserves, the land was divided out to Revolutionary War veterans as payment for their service in the creation of our country. After much of the land was then passed on to a few land speculators, one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, Robert Morris, somehow acquired most of what we call McDowell County today. Now, of course, he, like many others, due to the sheer ruggedness of the region, had no desire in developing any of the land. So as a result of his inaction, much of McDowell County was settled by squatters. Even after the first permanent settlement around 1802, it was a struggle to populate what we call McDowell County today, and this struggle went on for decades as the county by 1860 only attracted around 1,500 residents. To make a long story short, there was just no incentive for anyone to move into such a rugged wilderness without any major transportation routes. Well, that was until it was discovered that underneath this vast rugged wilderness was the very thing that would power our country's first industrial revolution, and this place where no one wanted to settle would be the epicenter of that first industrial boom. Many outside investors during the 1870s began purchasing land, and by the 1890s the Norfolk and Western Railroad was completed and spur lines ran to just about every area where coal was mined. Now, the coal deposits here were so vast that the coal companies literally had to recruit immigrants from Europe and African Americans from the southern U.S. because the native population didn't even come close to meeting the labor demands. As the coal industry started to expand and immigrants started to migrate to the county, McDowell County became the multicultural center of West Virginia and also the center of political power in our state. This was especially true with the migration of African Americans to the region and their influence on building the Republican Party into a very strong political force locally and statewide. To put this into perspective, in 1928, Governor Howard Gore appointed the first African American woman to ever serve as a member of a state legislature in the country. Minnie Harper was appointed to serve out the rest of her husband's term after he abruptly passed away before his term ended. She even received unanimous approval and recommendation from the County Executive Committee for her appointment. The county also soared in population and economic activity as communities started popping up everywhere. Welch, with the vote of the people of McDowell County, and after the county records had to be secretly removed from Perryville, which is today English, West Virginia, became the county seat in 1892. In just 35 short years, this town snuggled around Elkhorn Creek experienced an economic boom beyond scale as Welch's population went from 300 in 1895 to around 1,500 in 1930. Welch was also the site of the tragic murder of Sid Hatfield. After the Battle of Matewan in Mingo County, where 7 Baldwin Felts detectives were killed in a shootout with Sid Hatfield and coal miners, Sid and several others were tried for murder. Sadly, on August 1, 1921, on the steps of the McDowell County Courthouse, Baldwin Felts detectives shot and killed both Sid and his friend Ed Chambers. Sid was a beloved hero to the West Virginia coal miners for standing up for them in Matewan, and hearing of his murder just added more fuel to the mine wars, which resulted in the largest labor insurrection in our nation's history. As for the impact that coal had on the county's population, McDowell County by the 1950s had almost 100,000 people living within its borders. Now, going from a population of 1,500 to around 100,000 in a span of 90 years is beyond impressive considering how rugged this region is. So one would wonder, how did McDowell County go from that sort of large-scale prosperity to the many real struggles it faces today? Well, it all started in the 1960s with the mechanization of coal mining. This started a sharp decline in coal jobs, and with no alternative means of employment, led to a substantial migration out of the county to other regions of the country where economies were more diversified and jobs more plenty. Of course, many other factors also play into the overall decline in the coal industry, such as the abundance of cheap natural gas, environmental regulations, competition with cheaper Western coal, and the recent decreases in coal exports. Infrastructure and convenient access to the county is also a challenge, as neighboring Mercer County is able to sustain and grow economically with Interstate 77. All of these factors has definitely led to McDowell County going from one of our state's richest and prosperous counties to one that faces many struggles and challenges today. Things are looking up though, as many communities throughout the county are finding creative ways to celebrate their heritage and share that heritage with others near and far. One creative McDowell County wonder is the Elkhorn Inn and Theater along US 52 in Landgraf. Originally, the inn was built by the Empire Coal and Coke Company as their miners' clubhouse in 1922. However, in 2003, it was opened as a bed and breakfast and has become an attraction to many nationwide and worldwide. Believe it or not, many travelers to the inn are rail fans who are mainly tourists that are railroad and train enthusiasts. Now today, the Norfolk Southern Railroad, which is the former N&W, runs right beside the inn. The inn was even called the best legal train watching location in the USA by Railfan and Railroad magazine. Behind the inn is the section of Elkhorn Creek, which is also known to be one of the best wild trout fishing streams in the country. The Elkhorn Inn is a great example of how heritage tourism is bringing people to McDowell County to share some of its story. And surely we can't forget about the Hatfield and McCoy Trail. The Hatfield and McCoy Trail system in southern West Virginia has been very beneficial in bringing many people to the area for a recreational experience you can't find anywhere else. Now, we couldn't tell the story of McDowell County without at least talking about this community and 6 boys from Big Creek High School and their fascination with America's space race with Russia. History would deem these 6 boys as the Rocket Boys. Probably the most notable Rocket Boy was Homer Hickam, who was born and raised in Colwood. On the day Russia launched Sputnik, the first satellite in space, Homer and his 5 friends began building rockets of their own. Now, these rockets were indeed not NASA-worthy, but when they did fire them off from an old coal dump that they named Cape Colwood, they were good enough to win a county science fair and then take top prize at the National Science Fair in 1960. As for Homer, he did end up working for NASA and also ended up publishing a few books. He was and still is today deeply admired by people in McDowell County and throughout our state. I'm Wayne Worth, and until next time, always remember, what we value and hold important to our lives today came from events that happened yesterday, and it's when we begin to understand the events of yesterday that we fully embrace today, which makes tomorrow become less of a mystery. All right. Shoot, that was a dragonfly. My land. Whew.